All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about a problem that is so massive, it's costing our global economy $7 trillion every single year. But what if the solution isn't about finding more money or building better tech? What if it's about learning how to have a completely new kind of conversation?
So let's just take a moment to look at that number, $7 trillion. That's a 7 with 12 zeros after it. Think of it as a collaboration tax that our global infrastructure pays annually. It's the hidden cost of our most important systems, our grids, our supply chains, our cities, not being able to talk to each other in a meaningful way. It's a silent tax we are all paying, right now.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. The diagnosis for this problem isn't just about, simple inefficiency. The source material calls it a constitutional failure. Now we're not talking about a government document here. It's about a failure in the fundamental design, the actual rules of the game that our systems operate by. These rules literally prevent them from imagining and building new things together.
So, where does a $7 trillion cost even come from? Well, the core idea here is that it's not born from a lack of resources. It's born from a lack of conversation. The cost is the result of a profound, expensive silence.
And here's the kicker. The argument is that all the ingredients we need to solve these massive problems, they're already here. The capital is there. We're talking over $2 trillion in corporate budgets just sitting there waiting to be used. The intelligence is there, hiding inside the powerful AIs we already use every day. And of course, the physical stuff, the infrastructure, is all in place. All the puzzle pieces are already on the table. So, if we have the money, the brain power, and the hardware, what is missing? Well, it's the rulebook, the instructions. It's a constitutional framework that would allow these powerful but totally separate systems to finally start working together to imagine things that have never existed before. And this brings us right to the heart of the problem, a concept that the source calls the imagination gap. This is the empty space between what our systems can do all by themselves in their own little silos and what they could potentially co-create if they could just talk to each other.
This slide just nails the difference. On the left, you've got our current reality, one-way reporting. A sensor just shouts, hey, the voltage is low. A sustainability platform says, we missed our carbon target. They're just complaining about their own problems. The big shift on the right is to two-way imagining. This is where those same systems can start asking, hey, wait a minute, how could we fix the voltage problem and the carbon problem at the same time, and maybe even create something totally new and valuable in the process? Let's break this down even more. So you've got a utility, right? They know everything about the grid. And on the other side, you have their partners with their own ESG goals and tech platforms. But that column in the middle, that's the imagination gap. That's where all the value disappears into thin air. There's just no protocol, no shared language for them to ask the right questions together. So money just gets thrown at fixing individual problems instead of funding a shared dream.
Okay, so if the problem is a structural $7 trillion silence, then the solution has to be about architecting a totally new kind of conversation. Let's take a look at how that could actually work.
The solution they propose is called a constitutional completion protocol. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know, but the idea behind it is incredibly elegant. This isn't some new piece of software you have to buy. Think of it more like a set of rules for a super productive meeting, but the meeting is between AIs, sensors, and financial models. It's a framework that creates the rules and the space for them to have structured, creative dialogues. And this protocol is built on 4 key pillars. First, you've got the imagination protocol itself. That's the rulebook. Second, a dialogue layer. That's the digital meeting room where proposals are shared. Third, a verification layer. Think of this as the super trustworthy meeting minutes that can never be altered. And finally, the regenerative entity, or RE. This is the legal structure that turns a hypothetical what-if idea into a real-world, value-creating project.
Now we get to what is by far the most provocative claim in this whole proposal. The idea is that this new framework doesn't just create a little bit of extra value. The argument is that by enabling this new kind of conversation, we can unlock geometric, that is, exponential abundance.
Which, of course, leads to the big question that I'm sure you're asking right now. How is 64 times more value even remotely possible? Sounds a little crazy, doesn't it?
Well, first, let's just remember the old way of doing things. The math is simple. It's linear. We spot one problem, we apply one fix, and we get 1 unit of value back. It's very straightforward, but it's also incredibly limited.
The new approach completely reframes the goal. Instead of solving just one little problem, the protocol asks, what if we could dream up a single, elegant solution that solves for multiple connected needs all at the same time?
Things like grid capacity, cutting carbon, helping the local community, and even generating new revenue. All solved with one smart move.
And this is where the new math comes in. The value isn't just additive, it's geometric. It multiplies. If you design a single solution that takes care of 6 interconnected needs, the potential value isn't 6 times, it's 2 to the power of 6. That's 64 times the value. It's about creating a cascade of positive outcomes from a single brilliantly designed intervention.
This slide lays out the journey. It all starts in phase 0 by simply mapping the silence, finding out where the important conversations aren't happening. From there, you start asking that 64x question to spark ideas. You build the space for the dialogue, and eventually you get to a point where even the sensors out in the world are proposing solutions, not just reporting problems. It creates this powerful flywheel where every success fuels the next, even more ambitious idea.
So what does this all mean for an organization? Let's say a big utility that decides to be the first one to try this. The strategic shift is just profound. It's a move from being a simple operator to becoming a host.
This slide just captures that shift perfectly. On the left, you've got the old model, an operator who manages infrastructure and reacts to problems. But on the right, you have the new model, and imagination host, someone who hosts critical conversations, who actually monetizes dialogue, and who orchestrates abundance by inviting everyone else to come and co-create. It is a completely different business model.
And you know what? That new model comes with entirely new ways to make money. Instead of just selling a commodity, you're earning fees for orchestrating these incredible, value-creating conversations. You're getting dividends from the successful ideas that are born from this shared imagination. Your biggest grid challenges literally become valuable assets. They become invitations for a new, profitable conversation.
And what's really fascinating is how this whole journey starts. The proposed first step isn't some massive, risky investment. It's a small discovery retainer to simply map the silence, to do the initial work of finding where these trillion-dollar conversations are just waiting to happen.
And that brings us to the final question at the absolute heart of this entire concept. It forces all of us to reconsider the limits of what's possible, not based on the resources we have, but on the quality of the conversations we're willing and able to have. What could we complete together that we can't even begin to imagine alone?